Welcome to another interesting lesson.
Hard work pays.
Our previous lesson was on political parties.
Now in this lesson, you're going to be learning about human rights. The objectives for this lesson are: you should be able to know the meaning of human rights, the origin of human rights,
7 core freedoms of Universal Declaration of Human Rights,
and the protection of human rights. In the course of this lesson, there are 4 evaluation questions for you to answer.
What are human rights?
Human rights are generally the entitlement to treatment that a person enjoys simply by virtue of being a human being. It is also the claim of a human being recognized by society generally. Now let us talk about the origin of human rights. The first here we have is the natural right theory. Now scholars in this school of thought argue that individuals had certain rights even before the state came into being. This has to do with nature. The next we have is the legal theory of rights. When we talk about the legal theory of rights, people in this theory argued that human rights are a creation of the law of the state and that only the state can serve as the source of human rights. Now, it is also argued that whatever the state accords the subject constitutes their rights. Interesting. Next we have is historical theory of right. So see, when we talk about historical theory of rights, it assumes that rights are the creation of time, history, that they are based on long established usages and customs. Now this is therefore argued that the rights which the people think they ought to have are just those rights which they have been accustomed to. We also have the social welfare theory of rights. When we talk about the social welfare theory of rights, the theory believes that rights are the creation of society, inasmuch as they are based on the consideration of common welfare. The main argument of this theory is that rights make what is conducive to the greatest good of the greatest number, that they are the condition for social good.
Now we're going to be learning about the 7 core freedoms of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And the 7 core freedoms are right to life, right to freedom of movement, right to own property, right to freedom of speech, right to personal liberty, right to freedom from torture, right to freedom of worship. Now let's talk about the right to life. This right implies that everybody has the right to exist as a human being. It therefore becomes an offense to kill anybody. We also have the right to freedom of movement. This right allows every individual to move about without any illegal restriction. It allows individuals to move about in search of their daily livelihood. We also have the right to own property. Now, in exercising this right, individuals are members of society. As members of society are permitted to own cars, buildings, companies, and other properties which are not classified as illegal or against the country's law or public interest. We have the right to freedom of speech. When we talk about freedom of speech, we mean the right to have opinion on any issue that affects or is likely to affect one's interest or the general interest of the people. Do you understand? We also have the right to personal liberty. Now, this is freedom from unnecessary control or restriction. It also includes the freedom from imprisonment, slavery, forced labor, and freedom to act, or the right to express oneself. Here we have right against torture. This right forbids subjecting somebody to intentional harm or unnecessary agony. And finally, we have the right to freedom of worship. This is the right to practice the religion of one's choice. It also includes the right of thought to join any religious organizations.
Now, students, let us talk about the protection of human rights. Now, it is one thing to protect for human rights, but it is a different thing for their protection by the states. Now, in Nigeria, the following are designed to ensure that human rights are not violated. The first way of protecting human rights is by putting human rights in the Constitution. The various constitutions, like the 1960, 1963, 1979, 1989, and the 1999 constitutions, had encoded in them provisions for human rights. You can also protect human rights through establishment of law courts. And the government provides for law courts to hear and determine complaints on human rights violation. You can also protect human rights through law enforcement agents. As part of the role of maintaining peace and order in a state, government established the police, the military, and other paramilitary organizations to protect people from inhuman treatment at the hands of individuals who may want to deny others their human rights. We also have provision of public enlightenment and public education on human rights. So there is need for government through the mass media organizations to embark on constant education of the masses in respect of their rights and obligations to the country. They are constantly told of what they should do when their rights are violated. And lastly, formation of non-governmental organizations can also help to protect human rights. In Nigeria, many human rights organizations are run privately by members of the public. They are formed to protect and champion the interests of the poor.
Now watch this short video clip on Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Let us, as members of the United Nations, conscious of our own shortcomings and imperfections, join our effort in good faith to live up to this high standard.
Todos os seres humanos podem invocar os direitos e as liberdades proclamados na presente declaração sem distinção alguma.
Everyone has the right to education. Education shall be free, at least in the elementary and fundamental stages.
Todos son iguales ante la ley y tienen sin distinción derecho a igual protección de la ley.
Брак может быть заключен только при свободном и полном согласии обеих вступающих в брак сторон.
Tout individu a droit à une nationalité. Nul ne peut être arbitrairement privé de sa nationalité, ni du droit à changer de nationalité.
凡受刑事控告者，在未经获得辩护上所需的一切保证的公开审判而依法证实有罪以前，有权被视为无罪。
لكل فرد الحق في الحياة والحرية وسلامة شخصه.
प्रत्येक व्यक्ति को विचार और उसकी अभिव्यक्ति की स्वतंत्रता का अधिकार है.
Watu wote wamezaliwa huru, hadhi na haki zao ni sawa. Wote wamejaliwa akili na dhamiri, hivyo yapaswa watendeane kindugu.
Now students, I believe you understand the meaning of fundamental human rights, the types of fundamental human rights, and the reasons why fundamental human rights is included in the Constitution.
Now this is the end of our lesson. Until next time, and bye.